shall we go into some reviews, Joe?
Let's do it. I've missed them so much.
Oh, me too. Honestly, it's like Christmas Day all over again. And the first film we're going to start off with is a film that we saw about 2 weeks ago. Back before all of this, happened. Back when life was good. And we saw this film. We've got 2 reviews today from Blumhouse. The first one is very different to the second. It's Fantasy Island. And we saw this 2 weeks ago in a pretty packed cinema. This is a remake of the popular 70s TV show. And Joe, do you want to explain the complex plot of Fantasy Island?
Well, you say that as if it isn't complex, but really it is quite complex, ridiculously so, to be honest with you. But like you said, yeah, it is a horror adaptation of the popular 70s TV show, which is kind of more famous for the kind of classic line of the little the guy called Tattoo in the show who says "De plane, boss, de plane," which I know goes completely over your head, Dan, because we're talking about the 70s here. So that is
what's going on? What is the 70s?
Exactly. So it's like Blumhouse's modern kind of horror adaptation of that concept of a magical island where people can go and have their wildest fantasies kind of come to life. And we've got a clip for you now.
Obviously, the fantasy won't be real, but that's why we go to horror movies and ride roller coasters, right? To feel something?
I'd like to think that this is more exciting than riding a roller coaster. Mr. Sullivan, do you mind giving us some privacy? I need to give Miss Cole instructions.
No, it's okay. He knows about Sloan. I'm owning it.
Okay. In the lobby, there is an elevator. Inside, push the button for the floor with no name.
Can I record it with my phone so I can remember it?
It is your fantasy.
Oh.
So that was a clip from Fantasy Island, and yeah, as I said, it's an interesting take on that original concept. I'm not going to lie, when I heard that Fantasy Island was being turned into a movie, and that it was going to go down the horror route, and then I saw the trailer for it, I thought that's actually quite an interesting way of bringing up, bringing a TV show from the 70s to the modern day. We've had similar kind of films like Starsky and Hutch, which was released like ages ago now, but that kind of went down the kind of, Ben Stiller kind of bro kind of comedy route, which I thought was a good angle to take on that. So I wasn't completely against this idea. And then about 20 minutes into the film, I was completely against the idea because there's just too much going on within this movie. Now, I can't say that I am the biggest connoisseur of the TV show, that I followed it religiously, because I wasn't born in the 70s, Dan. You might think I was, but I wasn't. So I'm not sure. I had nothing to really compare it to. So I'm not sure if this is a regular thing, but I assume the series would focus on one kind of plot per episode. This film has about 4 different plots kind of running simultaneously through it, which do combine at the end, but very, very messily so. And because there's too much going on, what it just equates to is an absolute mess of a movie which was so slow. I honestly, my heart sank when I checked the time, I thought it was probably about an hour in, only to find they'd been about 20 minutes in. And it is because the simple fact that there's just too much going on. Now, Maggie Q, the couple of different plot threads that we've got going on here. We've got a plot thread with kind of 2 brothers and they want to like literally have like a big party essentially. Like they want to have everything at their fingertips. So they kind of go to this house, and it's like a lot of naked women running around, naked men, and you know, they've got guns and money and drink and drugs and things like that. And that kind of plays like some sort of hangover type buddy comedy type plot line. Then you've got a story about a young man whose father died in the war, Vietnam War, and he wants to have his chance to be in the military, which is like a kind of yes, America, Team America type storyline. Then you've got a young girl who was bullied as a child, and her fancy is to get revenge on her bully, which I thought was quite an interesting concept. And then you've got Maggie Q playing a woman who basically has a big regret in her life. She thinks the regret in her life is that not saying yes to a marriage proposal, but it turns out she's actually got a bigger regret in life, which she discovers as the film plays out. Now, as you can hear, there's a lot going on there. Some of it works better than others. So Maggie Q's plotline, I think me and you both agreed was really quite interesting and intriguing, and I think she brought a great kind of performance to what the material she was given, and I was just frustrated every single time the film would jump back to a less interesting storyline, like for example the young man who wants to be in the military, or the two guys who literally just kind of are having a party, and then that kind of gets taken over by some guys wearing masks, very much like The Purge. And I think this is part of the problem with the film. You know, it takes a lot of different things that we've seen from Blumhouse as well. It's kind of self-referential in that sense. And I think because we've seen it all before, and because of the incoherent plot, it just turns into such a drudge of a movie. You know, we were sat in there for seemingly hours upon hours, and I left just exhausted from everything that had happened, and not satisfied at all really with anything that had gone on in there. It was worth it for a couple of laughs. But otherwise, you know, compared to something like The Invisible Man, you know, it's chalk and cheese. I mean, this is an absolute mess of a movie. Yeah, really, really did not like it. What did you think?
Well, mate, I don't know about you, but this film was magical to me. I entered that cinema a 24-year-old man. I came out a 42-year-old man with 4 kids. It was crazy. It was honestly nuts. I grew a beard and everything. Yeah, you're right. This was an absolute slog to sit through. Unlike anything I've seen, you know, in a very, very long time. The pacing is such an issue with it. I love the fact that it gets right in there, but I wish that actually it gave the characters a bit more of a backstory, so we actually cared about them. They're all disposable. They're all forgettable. You're right. Maggie Q is way too good for this. She's the only character in this film that I kind of felt anything for. And, you know, God bless her, she earns her paycheck. I think the one good thing I'll say about it, it has a budget of 7 million, and the movie looks really good for 7 million. I don't know what they did. I don't know where they were filming, in his backyard, I don't know. But yeah, the film looks really good for 7 million. I'll give it that. So the director, Jeff Wadlow, you know how to spend your money. Obviously not on the actors. But yeah, you're completely right. You know, you hit the nail on the head with everything there. There's too many storylines. The movie feels way too, has no direction. It feels just too jam-packed. And for a horror film, it's not scary. And apart from Lucy Hale's storyline, where she's having revenge of a childhood bully, none of the other storylines have any horror influences at them, really. You're right, it rips off The Purge, it rips off Saw. But you know what? It doesn't even go that close. It plays it so safe. You know, for Lucy Hale's bit where she's about to torture the girl, you know, I wanted it to go further than that. It just didn't. It was so safe. You know, I would not sit through this again. I thought it was a real slog. And you know what? It's funny how obviously Blumhouse are kind of pushing Invisible Man and putting that on VOD, and they're not putting this in it. Blumhouse, we've got obviously 3 films out very close together. This is by far the worst. This doesn't even feel like it's from Blumhouse. I even go as far to say Jeff Wadlow, the director who directed Truth or Dare 2 years ago, it made that film look like Citizen Kane. I tell you what, you know, Truth or Dare. I think it's coming out on Netflix. That at least is a good laugh. And it's a good bit of fun. Yeah, this was just an absolute slog. Everyone in the cinema was laughing for all the wrong reasons. And yeah, I just think, you know, you've got The Hunt, you've got The Invisible Man. Watch those films. They're really quality. This is not. So yeah, not for me.